Hello, everybody. My name is TRG. I'm a guy that plays games, and I'm finally not sick and I can actually talk because I just had my wisdom tooth pulled out. But we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about Terraria, and specifically Terraria Calamity, one of the biggest mods. And if you're on this video, you probably know. If you don't know what it is, well, just a quick rundown. The mod is so large that it's pretty much Terraria 2. That's pretty much all you need to know. But while I was looking at it and while I was playing with, I found things quite odd. And there's something that I have a very big grievance with that, and that is the developers making weird decisions which don't make any sense. It is going to be very hard to continue playing if we only get these large nerf sweeps and rebalances, and then we have only, and I understand this is only half the update, but we need more than this than just a large nerf sweep, removal of quality of life, and dismissal of criticisms because people cheer. So what am I talking about? Well, we just had an update called the Brainstorm. It's a wonderful update. The meat that we wanted was the rework of the Devourer of Gods. I know another rework, but that is an amazing thing. So you have a lot of like stuff and where like you have the rebalancing of certain bosses like that, where you have this large amount of effort. But then you have other things where you just have nerfs upon nerfs upon nerfs upon redoing and nerfs and nerfs. And I understand that like you're not gonna have things stay the same. There was large nerfs before and reworks and all that. But generally I came around with like buffing other things or adding other effects or doing X, Y, and Z, reworking it to where this is actually craftable over here, so on and so forth. So with that being said, this one doesn't really do anything of that, and you just have nerfs and nerfs and nerfs. But like I said, the like that you usually see something, I would be like okay with that if it was just that, like just having a large sweeping thing where it basically tries to get a general power level down, where it's like we want the player to be this so that when we continue making new bosses, making new realms, we have like a very standardized player, right? It's not overly like buffed, because obviously by the time that you fight the Devourer of Gods, they want you to feel like this unstoppable god, and making new content is kind of hard for that. So that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is certain things where like you'll have an item which is good, and then you just like rail it into the ground to make it okay. Or if you have a grind and where it's like you're saying that you're going to have a different system so that you can get these items, and you only give us half of it, and therefore you ruin the grind for it and don't give us anything else in the meantime, that's a problem. Or if you have something that takes a decent time to actually grind for and actually get, and then remove away a surefire way that you can craft these things, and then just once again spike it into the ground of the final crafting recipe for no reason, it shows a lack of, I think, direction when it comes to certain things. And I don't think that this was a problem with Fab. I think it was just the team in general, as this doesn't really make much sense to do. And I understand that they're trying to do like half of the update and then another half, but there's nothing here that really justifies it in this half. It would just be better to do like just the general nerfs and then save for the bigger ones for other stuff. To go into the examples, you have the Ankh shield, which had crafting recipes where you can get these individual items and then craft the Ankh shield. But they didn't just stop at removing like the recipes, they also debuffed it, nerfed it to where you're not immune to fire for some reason, and then also lowered its protection. Or the Asgard Aegis, where they reduced its protection, they made it to where it doesn't protect against any debuffs, and it also like has a worse dash now. That would be fine if we had something else for it. Like it's the best dash, but like how you have these things, it's like you're increasing the combat, because if you look at the Devourer Gods, it's definitely a much more technical combat fight. You're increasing the combat, and then you're making your dashes worse, your protection worse, your defense worse. All for what? Like, there's not really a point into doing that. And the whole thing is like, oh well, they don't want other dashes to be outshined. It's like, this is the end game dash. This is the end game dash. There's nothing else in like this category as far as I'm aware. I may be wrong about that, but this is like the end game dash. But the worst one of them all is post Devourer of Gods. You try to get like the Ascended Spirit essence through the moon event. So that's the Pumpkin Moon, the Frost Moon, and the Eclipse. Well, guess what? Instead of you being able to do this infinitely like other bosses, and especially with this where you need to grind it specifically, unlike other bosses, you don't need to grind them, you just need to kill them once for progression. The grind now takes away your event item every single time, unlike everything else in the game where if you use a event item, so like a boss summon, it doesn't take it away, meaning that if you don't get enough essence, you now need to go back and try to get the materials for that, which can take some time. Like if I'm grinding, I don't want to fight random Skeletron Prime, even if I kill him in like 10 seconds, just to go and craft it, then go to the dungeon, and then go get some ectoplasm, and then if I don't have silk, go buy silk or get silk, so on and so forth. So this change makes makes no sense unless they just want to put like more grinding. It really doesn't make any sense, because the whole point of that, when they were gonna do that was when they moved the distortion realm, like with the distortion like pocket dimension, and where you would have all these things and you'll be able to get them. But we don't have that yet. Even if it's like, okay, well, you have to grind for like 2 minutes to go get these items, it's like that's still not really a good thing. Like, I rather just be able to go and do it again and again. And the defense that I see of this is that, well, they're not a quality of life mod. Well, they're not a quality of life mod, but that also doesn't mean that if they're not that, they make the quality of life changes reverse and make it worse. Like, that's not a good defense for actively making certain things worse and having less quality. I will say this, like the majority of it is good, and especially in terms of the combat and stuff, but like when you're having the outside stuff like the grinding and all that being messed with, it does mess up the flow, it does mess up like the balance, it does make it seem like it's just flopping around, it doesn't really have anything nice to it. It just feels very weird, and it is like to a lot of things, especially when it's just nerfs on nerfs on nerfs, quality of life for movements, making grinds longer. It's not going to feel good. You're just making it longer without actually adding any substance. All I say is that I don't really want this design to continue forward, because if we have this design continuing forward when it comes to Calamity, like I love it, and like I care for it, like it's one of my favorite things. But if this continues forward, what we're gonna have is this long grind because they remove the quality of life stuff, and that's because and how they have designed things like that, and then a singular boss at the end, and then another long grind again for no reason. And that grind is going to be pretty much empty. This isn't too serious of a thing, but I am worried if this is going to be like how they like go about designing things later in the future, because it's going to feel like they're trying to challenge the player more than just creating something that's fun, something that's interesting, something that like people can enjoy. Where it's now we want you to be this way, and I don't think that that's what they want, but that's how like they're designing. They're gonna go, at least from this, they're trying to design things moving forward. And like I said, I expressed my fears and my concerns, but it's not necessarily something that you have to be too worried about. And once again, I do love the mod. I probably will do a playthrough on this channel just to go and show it, because I just love it so much and I'm such a big fan. But I do think that this is a very like bad way to go about designing the mod and making decisions about it, because if that's the case, like every single time they're going to remove a bunch of features, we have to go we can only say after the fact and be like, hey, this is not really good, and then they do it again because the next update, because they haven't changed the design philosophy. But anyways, this is just my concerns about it. As always, my name is TRG. I'm a guy that plays games while being lame. So we'll see you in the next video.